You asked for it, so I went out and got one. This is the AutoTrickler V4, and I'm going to be comparing it to the SuperTrickler. Now, I was fortunate that I have a number of friends that have a V4. One of them was nice enough to let me use it. Keep in mind, I paid for everything else, and this is just a rental from a friend here. But if you saw my other video, I used my V3 with the Ingenuity Precision Trickler, which I absolutely love. But a lot of people said, hey, I've got a V4. It's probably a little closer to being an actual, comparison to the SuperTrickler. We'd love to know your thoughts on it. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to be a little redundant. Some of this will obviously have been covered in the last video, but hopefully this helps you understand how watching the other video, how it compares to a V3. In this case, how the SuperTrickler compares to a V4. So first thing is going to be the form factor. Now, I talked about this in the other video. With a V3, you've obviously got a trickler on the side. Both the V4 and the SuperTrickler really don't occupy any more space than the scale itself. So as long as you have room for the footprint of the FX scale, then you have enough room for the trickler units. SuperTrickler is obviously enclosed. Everything is inside of it. AutoTrickler, a little more exposed. You can see the motors, the belts, stuff like that. Not good or bad, just again, a difference. And if you're wanting this to be which one's better, I'm not going to give it to you. I think they're both really good units. They just kind of solve different problems different ways, different price points. $450 for the V4 as of today, $675 for the SuperTrickler. So there's definitely a price difference that obviously has an effect depending on people's needs. The V4 is going to be a dedicated powder trickling system. So everything you see, the hopper, the motors, everything, that's the entirety of the unit there. So it is an effective powder measure. It stops at that. The SuperTrickler, they've really, and one of the reasons it costs more, obviously, because there's more, computer built into it, if you will, and expandability. But their system, and I'll show you on my other one here. So here is the expansion port. This is going to be the serial port to connect to the actual scale, the power unit. But this will allow for expandability in the future for things like a super filler, where you can, basically have this thing automatically fill up X amount of pieces of brass for you without having to be present. They have bullet weight systems coming online, hopefully here. Potentially brass and primer weighing ability. So a lot of things that are kind of integrated, making this a complete system. And that's really what the guys at SuperTrickler have tried to do. Something to also keep in mind, both of these units are technically international to the US. AutoTrickler is in Canada. SuperTrickler is over in Europe. And my experience, I know everybody's experience has been a little bit different. I don't honestly think that I've gotten special treatment necessarily, but Adam has always been responsive to emails even before I ever had a channel. Same thing with the guys at SuperTrickler. I emailed them from a different account just to see what customer service was like, and I had good luck with them. Now, this is new to them. They are figuring things out. I know people have asked about like different countries and tax and imports and stuff. They may not have all the answers right now. They're trying. They're working on it. They want to make sure they do it right. But I will just tell you that I have had some people that don't necessarily know exactly what their import taxes or export tax type stuff is, and it's something that they're working on. So just understand that. Both units will work on the A&D FX scales, and both are going to utilize them in a very similar manner. The V4 is a large tube, small tube system. So is the SuperTrickler, and I'll just show you if you haven't seen it in my other video, but you've got a large tube, small tube. So they're both similar. The biggest difference is that you have a double rotating system here, whereas on the SuperTrickler you have a vibrating and a spinning system. So your small tube is actually vibratory, pulsing is what they call it, and it does give a different kind of control. So as opposed to kind of spinning out a corkscrewed tube, it just vibrates them in a line as they fall out. Interface, obviously going to be different. AutoTrickler has and probably will continue to be app-based. If you don't have it, this is what it looks like. The V3 and the V4 are very similar in terms of like the top half. The bottom half is what changes. One of the biggest things, and I think one of the reasons people obviously want me to compare the V4 to the SuperTrickler, is that the V3 really didn't have any onboard control for, you know, the big drop, the little drop, you know, trickling, stuff like that. There's a slider on the back of the scale that you can use, but that was about it. The V4 obviously went to the next level and allowed for, you know, more settings. You had a large tube, a transition weight, a small tube, a calibration mode. So different things you can do to help get the most accuracy out of the V4. I have never had a problem. I was a beta tester for the V4. I never had a problem with it. I mean, obviously through beta testing, you're, you know, diagnosing things, but as far as functioning model, loading off it, I never had a problem dropping in the 50s of my like Reloader 16 or 4350. I can't speak to every powder, but anything I tested that was like medium rifle type stuff, large rifle, I had pretty good luck. SuperTrickler, same thing. I've been doing beta testing with that, and it's been a lot of fun. Definitely seeing a lot of different things that can be tweaked and this and that. As opposed to, let's say, 3 or 4 settings on the V4, however, the SuperTrickler has like 5 or 6 different screens that each have 3 to 5 different settings you can affect. And I know that seems a little overwhelming, and it certainly can be if you let it. Now, the SuperTrickler has what it calls like a learning mode, or artificial intelligence, or self-learning, and that is going to let it help you if you want. And really that's a mode made for, you know, pouring the powder in, punching in a charge, picking a powder, because it has a big database of powder charges and kind of some rough starting points for them. The self-learning is going to then do a bunch of charges and try to optimize the bulk throw, the fine throw, and the trickle throw, or the pulse throw. And it's going to get you really close. Once it thinks it's got you pretty much there, it's going to turn off. Or you can manually turn it off at some point. And then if you want to really get in there and kind of squeeze that nth degree of, you know, performance out of it, you can kind of manually tweak with any number of things. I will be doing videos on basically setting up a brand new powder, so I'm going to walk you guys through the entire process, as well as a couple other things. So it's not really the right video to do that in, but just know that that is the difference in terms of how they react for your adjustments. The Platen system, obviously on an AutoTrickler, you're dealing with the entire Platen that comes with the A&D scale. The advantage with that is it does allow you to use basically any size cup you want. You have a large cup, a small cup, a shot glass, it don't matter. As long as it fits on the Platen, you're good to go. On the SuperTrickler, you pull off the Platen and it is replaced with their little custom Platen, and then the rest of the system is covered with plastic from their unit. But the only thing that's affected by weight is just this little Platen. And theory being that larger surface area, more things can affect it with pressure and air and stuff. Smaller Platen, less likely to be affected, especially when you've got, you know, some of it covered up. So there's that. Cup size, also, I haven't really found it to be an issue. Obviously, I'm used to using these larger cups, similar to the Area 419 cups with my AutoTrickler systems. This is the cup that comes with the SuperTrickler. It has a shorter handle. There's a guy named Lone Harvey on Accurate Shooter that sells accessories. He makes actually a replacement cup as well, but he's the one that did that funnel too. But this gives it a little bit of an extension, and with slightly shaky hands, this just helps me get in there a little bit. One thing that I have found, and it's a very, you know, minor stupid thing, but I used to keep my cup up here. Now I just keep it in here, so it's, you know, kind of 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. Doing initial setup, I've got these pretty well tweaked. I've got the V4, you know, this one isn't mine, but I was able to get it set up pretty close to where I would, you know, normally throw charges. So I will say this one's 99%, maybe a little bit more of what I would normally do. SuperTrickler, you know, I'm constantly doing different beta testing on it with different software, but this particular one right now is tuned up, I'd say at least 98%, maybe 99% of where I think it can be. Obviously, as I'm doing things, it's changing things, and I'm having to constantly tweak it right now. But for the average user, let's just say I've got this set at probably 99% of where I'd want it to be. So let's watch the charges go. So here's that. We're going to go here. And this one, I was doing something, so I need to start over here. And so I'm going to let these run once, and then we'll start them over together. Okay, so that just sort of got them both running. So here's real world. Okay, SuperTrickler's done. This one's running just a hair over. It's been a little while since I've programmed one, so I'm just going to back it off just a hair here. So there we go, we're running a little better. You'll also notice that the AutoTrickler does have a green light when it's got a good charge. The SuperTrickler goes through red, green, white, and blue depending on what it's doing. Why this is having problems. There we go. I didn't have the... I moved it for a second. I was wondering what was going on. I had the rear end was up on the bumper instead of where it should have been. Let's try this again now. So there we go, done, done. You can see green light, so both of them telling you you've got a good charge. They both drop the exact same charge weight. Done. And this one's gonna be done in a second here. Done. So you can see I'm not going to do a whole bunch of these, but you can see that, you know, under the right conditions, they're pretty darn close. I do honestly think you could probably squeak a little more speed out of the SuperTrickler. But the big thing to remember is that I can make both of these run perfect, and I can make both of them run just stupid fast but throw errors. And there's going to be a middle ground that you need to find. I actually... change this a little bit, thinking, not realizing what was going on. So in all fairness, I'm going to change this real quick and put these settings back where they were. But I can make these run as fast or as slow as I want to. I'm willing to accept something in the range of a tenth of a basically 10% error rate is what I meant to say. So I can throw a error rate. So like that one went, technically it came back under, but I've got it on a really fast stabilization, so it didn't give it enough time. You can see this one's faster now than it was. I will show you real quick. So the SuperTrickler gives a really good explanation in here about trade-offs between failure and speed. And it basically just in a nutshell. If you do 100 charges with 0 failures but 20 seconds each, it would take you a little over 30 minutes. If you're willing to accept a 10% failure rate, which I know sounds crazy high, but if you do a 10% failure rate at only 6 seconds per charge, it would only take 11 minutes to throw, saving you 22 minutes. And then obviously you could split the difference in the middle. But, to me, 20 minutes of charge wait time is worth throwing back 10 loads. Everybody's going to have a slightly different opinion of how this, kind of ratio goes. And I know everybody wants a 2-second perfect, a 2-second, throw with perfect charge weights every time. And that's just ain't going to happen right now. It's just not normal. So you just kind of have to deal with it. So anyway, I'll go ahead and turn this one off, and then we'll turn this one off. So, take that for what it is, as far as the speed goes. But at the end of the day, I can get them both to run just fine. So it doesn't really bother me. In most cases, unless you have a couple of them, either one is going to throw faster than you're probably ready for the next charge if you are loading and, seating and stuff like that. Now, if you're just trying to load up, if you're trying to fill up 100 cases, obviously speed matters a little bit more. But again, I adopt the method of faster with an acceptance of a certain failure rate. So, that's just kind of how that goes. Ladder testing, one of the big reasons both of these units are popular. The V4, when it was introduced, was a big step up because you didn't have to make any manual changes to the unit. If you wanted to keep adding a grain at a time, it would automatically add that to the gross throw, and it would just keep you going, which made it really nice for guys who change out powders real quickly. You didn't have to keep, on the V3, you have to adjust, like here's the V3, and you have to manually adjust this every time you do different powders to let more or less come out of the powder throw. With the V4, you don't have to do that, and that was a very welcome addition, especially for guys that do anything from pistol all the way up to maybe very large calibers. You had one unit, you could simply change out the powder, punch in the new charge weight, and you could be off and running. SuperTrickler, and then I should say that for doing ladder testing, you would just simply go into the app and hit plus 10th, plus 10th, plus 10th, or whatever you want to do. And it made it really easy. SuperTrickler has an actual built-in ladder mode where you put in like the charge weight, the amount of charges you want, the increments you want to move up at, and so on. So if you happen to throw a charge weight that's under or over, it doesn't count towards the amount that you wanted to do, so it's keeping track and only throwing the right amount of each one, potentially saving you, if you're doing a ladder test, maybe you accidentally, like in the past, I've accidentally put some into the next set of charges because I didn't go up 1/10 of a grain or something. In theory, the SuperTrickler doing 5 at a time or 10 at a time, it would automatically go up even if you weren't paying attention for some reason. Aside from that, you just kind of have to, ask yourself, do I want something that's, just a little bit simpler, a little bit less expensive, still works fantastic, just to do powder dropping? Do I want something that is potentially more expandable down the line? Do I want to be able to do onboard programming with it to really tweak it? It's just kind of a give and take, and I know that there are attractions for people to both of them. That's why I really, there's times where I would say, look, one is dramatically better than the other. This isn't one of those cases. I can make a strong argument for somebody to use a V3 with an Ingenuity Precision. I can make an argument for people to use the V4, and I can make an argument for people to use the SuperTrickler. So I think that we are very fortunate. I mean, look, at the end of the day, 5 years ago, we didn't have choices like this. So as a shooter, or in general for the shooting community, I think it's amazing that we now have so many really great options that are really just doing a great job of helping us save time and increase accuracy. So anyway, if there's something that I did not cover, something that you'd like to see comparing I know what the one thing I didn't cover was emptying. So real quickly, let me just show you emptying each of these units. I obviously want to make sure that this is turned off. So I've got the scales on, but it doesn't matter for the purposes. But I just want to make sure that this isn't going to throw a charge or this isn't going to throw a charge. But with the V4, I'm going to turn the column here that's going to lock this closed. Okay. I always had a small little catch bin on the back of the V4. There's a piece just like this on the back where there's a small amount of powder that's still being kept. So I would simply come back here, lift up this gate, okay? Then I would shake out what's left in the tubes, open that up one more time, and now it's empty. If I really wanted to make sure every kernel was out, I could obviously open both gates and just blow out both holes, and then I would be fine. But for anything I normally do, like I don't leave powder in my system, so that's what I would do, and then I've got the powder in here. On the SuperTrickler, I just removed the funnel so I have something easier to grab, and I'm only taking that out just for the sake of the video so it looks a little simpler. You just keep this angled backwards because obviously you don't want anything coming out the front. Same thing with the V4. You just keep a slight angle on it. On the underside, and I will show you here in a second, but there is a little gate. You're going to open that up and you're going to drain it. You can see here. Once it looks like it's all done, I'm just going to close that. I'm just going to give it a couple shakes to get any remaining powder into the bottom. I'm going to open that up and then I am good to go. And I can just put it right back on. And that is the entirety of emptying that. That little gate valve looks, just so you have an idea, it looks like this. Okay. So it empties from the bottom, and I know that, you know, that some people don't like that. That's just the way it is. One thing about it is, just as with Adams, where you literally can't put this on without it being locked shut, so you can't accidentally take it off and have it be empty. Same thing with this. You can't have it on the system without the gate being closed. If the gate's open even just a little bit, it won't fit over the Platen there. So you always can rest assured that if this is on there, you can pour powder in and powder won't come flying out the bottom. Only other thing, and I mentioned this before, but you know, you've got a hole here. It's a pretty decent sized hole. You can see into it. If there's powder in there, then you know you're good to go. I did run a test, and I could run about another 150 grains of powder, maybe close to 200, 150-ish. If you couldn't see powder, there was enough for maybe 3 or 4 more charges for what I do. Here, obviously, you've got a clear tube. You can see it. If this is empty, there's a little reservoir in the back like you saw me empty, which probably would let me charge a couple more cases as well. But I never really found either one to be inhibiting in any way. So if there's something you didn't see here, feel free to ask me in the comments below. But I hope between the other video showing the V3 and this one showing the V4 that this helps kind of, you know, for anybody that's on the fence trying to figure out what they want to order or what they want to do, you know, it helps them decide to go one way or the other. Stay tuned. Over the next couple of weeks I'll be doing a number of SuperTrickler videos though, and that'll be showing you, you know, how to work up a brand new powder, what the different settings mean, how to translate them to, you know, speed and accuracy and stuff like that. So anyway, you guys are awesome. We'll talk later. You have a good one.